Finance Property Committee meeting at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, August 4th, 2015, first floor conference room at City Hall. To my right is Alderperson Whirl, Alderperson Hepp, and could we just go around the room? I know I missed that once in a while, but introduce ourselves.
Mayor Zach Fruing.
Jen Brown from Water and Light.
Phil Costin with Elders.
Shea Blazer.
Adam Taken.
Sue Show.
Tim DeSorsi.
Eric Dobbin.
Okay, second item on the agenda is a request from Eric Dobbin for approval of a special events application for Special Olympics of Wisconsin Run with the Cops on October 8th, 2015, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. to include street closures of First Avenue South from West Grand Avenue to Third Avenue, Goggin Street between First Avenue South and Third Avenue South, and use of the Riverwalk. Eric?
I guess just a little bit about the Run with the Cops. It's a Special Olympics event it's got started at a lot of the UW campuses. It's been going on for maybe 2 years now. So we just kind of thought that we would bring it to Rapids, a very good community involvement piece. We're going to be using the same area, just like run the Rapids along the river. So it's going to be start at 6:45 around dusk time. So that'll be nice with lights and along the river. Be nice. And we're using the Centralia Center Riverwalk, which that application has been approved as well. Any questions at all or need? I guess part of the street closure is just the start and finish line, like around the Rapids on Goggins there. Then we're also gonna we extended it to West Grand on First Avenue South there, because we're gonna have some vehicles from the Sheriff's Department, Wood County Rescue, just kind of another show and tell for the community to see items that we have. We're getting out some fundraiser partnerships. We have Quick Trip on board to donate water. We have Dunkin' Donuts on board to donate some donuts for after the race. You can have a donut with the cop after your race. So there's going to be glow stations. So along the way, we'll have businesses want to get on board with the glow stations, hand out glow sticks, hand out flashing light stuff along the way.
Sounds good, and I'll make a motion to approve the request for the special events application for the Special Olympics Run with the Cops as presented, to include street closures of A, B, and C.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
guys.
Eric. Item 3, consideration of hiring Civic Tech Consulting for the rewrite of the zoning ordinance. Adam, you're on.
Yes, I know you guys look forward to discussing zoning ordinances, so I thought I'd go page by page through our current ordinance and let you know all the things that are wrong with it. If that's
Please
okay.
do.
I've got days. You weren't supposed to call me and bluff, I didn't bring it. But no, we have been squirreling some money away over the last 4 years or so for this rewrite. I believe we have $130,000 in the line item. This is something that, in my opinion, is desperately needed because our current zoning ordinance hasn't been updated really since the 80s in a comprehensive fashion. So there's a lot of piecemeal, a lot of small amendments, so that creates a lot of issues, inconsistent writing, districts that make no sense anymore, contradictions in the code, that type of thing. So rather than trying to fix what we have, the proposal is basically to throw it out and start over and then draft it from scratch. So we did put out a request for proposals. Surprisingly, we only got one proposal back, which is a little unusual. There have been some changes at the state level on who can do this type of work. There's more of a requirement to have a legal team involved, so I don't know if some consultants aren't interested in the work anymore, but we did review it. We did interview the consultants. We did compare their cost with what other communities have paid recently on their updates. It did come in very competitive. It's actually about $35,000 less, or $45,000 less than what we had expected it to be. So it is very cost competitive. And they are also actually including a online zoning ordinance tool with it, so once it's all done, residents and business owners will have the ability to actually go online, click on their property, and view some of the main things that most people want to know about their zoning. It'll all be interactive and able to be done online without needing to call or have interaction with staff, and then they can follow up with any more detailed questions. So that's actually included in this cost, which is a very unusual feature, which we thought added to it. Once we met with the consultants, we were happy with their work. We think the reason they're competitive and a little bit cheaper is they're a very small firm. It's basically a principal who brings in people as needed, so that helps keep their costs down. They do have a decent track record with some other communities within the state, so again, we didn't see any black flags or red flags on it. So I guess our recommendation is to move forward with Civitech at $85,000, and this process will probably be in the 1.5 to 2 year range from beginning to end. So it's a very long process, and I wouldn't be surprised if it drags a little bit farther out, depending on how much interaction and involvement you get from the public. That can affect the timeline a little bit. So
Okay.
How much do you have budgeted now?
130. So like I said, it would be substantially under what we expected.
I would add Alderperson Furkey participated in our search and screen of our one applicant. Felt very pleased with their qualifications and expertise in terms of the team that Adam alluded to that they pulled together. I would echo Adam's comment about being desperate, desperately needed. I think one of the biggest complaints or gripes people have, residents have of our community, is these disparate versions of community character and development standards, and this will ultimately, it's a long time in the making in terms of getting to a final result, but this is going to be a good thing, really good thing for many years to come. I mean, look at our current zoning is set in place for 30 years or longer in some form, and think of the impact that this will have on future development in the city.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, and the online features definitely gonna be a plus.
That was a bonus. I think
Yeah.
all of us were surprised to see that feature volunteered and by the consultant without even expecting it in the RFP process.
Right, yeah.
And at a value that, as you said, 45,000 less than we had anticipated.
Can't speak for the other older persons, but that's a lot of the calls,
Mhm.
and all that.
Anything to reduce my call load, I'm okay with.
Well, user-friendly, the code, we want it to be progressive. I mean, one way to do this is a very traditional zoning rewrite, right? And just come back with a bunch of text on paper, and by introducing a more progressive zoning code, like form-based code, people will be able to look at images, not so much on the computer, but images in general, to learn on how to develop in a way that is not so traditional. So that's the neat part about it. I mean, not many cities have form-based code, but some of the progressive ones do. Well overdue. Beyond being desperate, it's well overdue.
Yes.
Anything else, Adam?
I guess the only other thing I would add is, another thing we really liked about the proposal is there is substantial meetings on it for meeting with the public and making sure that they have the opportunity to come and interact with the consultant. So it won't just be necessarily working with staff or working with the council. The consultant will be here. I think it's something like 24 meetings
Okay, so-
are included within the, so
That's
that's
locked in with if we
Correct.
pick, well, obviously, if we say yay and
Right.
council passes it, then it's locked in.
Yep.
Okay. You guys got any?
The motion should probably have a dollar amount with it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual quoted cost is $81,820. And then there is the possibility for one add-on, which I can certainly come back if we decide to do that in the future. That would be basically some research that they would do to identify non-conforming uses so that they're known, so that we can kind of monitor them moving forward. But, so $81,820 would be what I'd recommend. And then Tim can spend the rest on whatever he wants.
Seems reasonable.
I'm sure we can use for it.
That's how I got it before.
I didn't have out there.
I'll make a motion for the hiring of Civitech Consulting for the rewrite of the zoning ordinance of $81,820.
Second that motion? Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4, thanks, Adam. Item 4, authorization to issue a $6,065,000 general obligation promissory notes to refinance the $9 million electric revenue bonds dated 4/1/2009.
Okay, well, actually, the amount is a little higher than that, $7,575,000 are GO refunding bonds, but Phil Hassan from others this year, as long as Jim Brown from Water and Light, basically they have some they issued $9 million of electric revenue bonds, I do believe in 2009, to upgrade the electrical system, and now they have an opportunity with the low interest rates to refinance those bonds, and basically they're coming to the city to request that we issue general obligation debt to refinance those as opposed to a revenue bond. The big difference there is that when you issue general obligation debt, it counts against the city's debt capacity, which is limited to 5% of our equalized value. Right now, Phil and I have had some conversations. The city, right now, even with the debt we have outstanding, we have about $39,621,000 of debt capacity. And with the $7.57 million refunding bonds, counting against that would not have a negative impact on our debt capacity or the credit rating agency's views on that. So I'll turn it over to Phil and Jen to talk about the actual.
I would just like to thank the mayor and Tim for facilitating this and getting in front of the committee. Basically, when I got here in 2008, this electric system needed a lot of infrastructure, so we issued the revenue bonds at that time to make the upgrades that we've needed. I think since I've gotten here, we've poured about $20 million into improving the electric system, and this $9 million was a good start. And what this amounts to, I guess, for our customer ratepayers is tax dollars basically trumps electric revenue, so the interest rate arbitrage is where we see a significant savings depending on when we reissue or are able to do this between $60,000 to $80,000 a year, and the difference between the GOAs and us doing revenue bonds again. So again, I'd just like to thank you for your consideration, and then Phil can go, the expert can go over the particulars.
I think you both did a great job. I can just go home now. Well, yeah, I come this far, I like to speak, so that's the way it is. Well, we met with the Utility Commission last week, and the goal at the Utility Commission was to lay this out for them, hopefully in an understandable format, and we provided them with 4 different options. And if you go to the first page of this document, I'm not going to go through the first piece. The first piece is more informational for the first page for the Utility Commission, but the 4 options that we laid out, and it's been alluded to by both Jim and Tim, is that working with Jeff Kuhn, we crafted different options that he wanted to see, and then again approached Tim to make sure that the options 2, 3, and 4, which are all general obligation options, fit within kind of your long-term capital plans, and also making sure they wouldn't impact the city's bond rating. So option 1, I'm going to just kind of high level this, and then if you want, I can bore down in the details, and we can be here 3 hours. But I know that's not the plan for everyone, so I just want to give high level, and then we could talk briefly about the differences between each option. Revenue bond option 1 is just that. We refinance the existing revenue bonds with revenue bonds. The interest rates are going to be a little bit higher, but more importantly, there's something called a debt service reserve fund that is established that is part of the borrowing. The utility keeps those funds, and you use those funds to make the last bond payments. Options 2, 3, and 4 allow us to use that debt service fund to reduce the amount of debt. We won't need it with the general obligation issues. With the revenue, we do. So we're really taking advantage of using that debt service reserve fund to enhance the savings on an annual basis in options 2, 3, and 4. We can't do that in option 1. So therefore, the savings is about $20,000 a year. This is net of fees. So after all fees are paid, the savings would be about a little over $300,000. And in today's dollars, what that means at $300,000 is about a 4% present value savings. So what percent of the outstanding bonds are you saving? In that scenario, it's about 4%. And at that level, I'll be honest with you, I told the Utility Commission, I probably wouldn't even recommend you proceed with it. You know, at $20,000 a year to go through this much work and to burn up your one time that you can do an advance refunding, I don't know if it really makes sense. And I shared that with Jeff Kroon as well. We thought we'd show it to you as an option. Options 2, 3, and 4, again, bring in the city. The city would actually be the issuer of the debt. Take advantage of the city's high rating. Take advantage of the most secure type of debt issue you can do, which is backed by the full taxing power of the city. And it allows us to drive down the overall cost by using, in one option, some of the reserve fund, and then the other options, all of the reserve fund. So in option 2, it's called an advanced refunding. We don't essentially pay off the non-callable portion. There's a non-callable portion here between 16 and 19. So we leave that in place, and then we refinance the rest. We can only use that debt service fund to reduce the debt by about $300,000. The savings in that example is about $65,000 a year, to about $900,000 over the remaining life of the issue. Present value savings about almost $500,000, and now we're refinancing, and the advanced refunding is looking at about 8.5% present value savings. That's a very large number. We'll recommend usually anything that's around 3% to at least be looked at. Anything above that, it should be kind of targeted as real potential for refunding. Option 3 is a full call. We refinance the callable and non-callable portion. There's a process you go through. You set up an escrow, essentially pays off the debt as it's as the payments come due each year. But you have to fully fund the escrow. So the amount that you're issuing is actually a little bit higher, and that's the option that we're going to be talking about. But what you're able to do is use that full reserve fund, which is about $700,000, and eliminate it completely. Now, talking to Jeff about this, that reserve fund is earning about 0.25%, and you're paying on the bonds, on the outstanding bonds, about 5%. The difference between the two, you're losing every year. So, as we talk through this, why not eliminate that reserve fund? You're not earning anything on it, and make it, and use it to reduce the amount of debt outstanding. So, by doing so, we really enhance the savings on an annual basis to about $100,000 a year, so about $1.4 million over the remaining life of the district, or remaining life of the debt, and the PV savings about $460,000. You'll see the amount of percent of outstanding being saved is a little bit less in this scenario, because again, we have to fully fund the non-callable portion as part of that escrow, which reduces the amount of money being saved on a present value basis. And then the last option, 4, which was discussed at the Utility Commission, and I think one member was kind of leading that direction but was convinced elsewhere, is that let's look at just keeping the payments roughly the same and shortening the life of the debt. And under that scenario, you actually save more money because you're paying off debt. It's like taking out a 15-year mortgage where you had a 30-year mortgage concept. You're paying less interest over a shorter time period, and the savings is enhanced to $1,745,000. Ultimately, where the Utility Commission came down at the recommendation of staff was option 3, and that was to truly try to maximize the annual savings with the anticipation that may hold off on future rate increases, at least for a period of time. And roughly $100,000 of savings each year going forward really makes a significant dent in their annual budget. So option 3 is what was proposed and approved at the Utility Commission. Behind each one of those, behind that summary page is the actual analysis for each of the 4 options. I wasn't going to spend the time going through this. I kind of gave a high level viewpoint of what we're doing here. But again, what was approved by the Utility Commission was to refinance the entire issue, the entire 09 issue, And again, to do so, you would need to essentially issue, and the amount, I know in the agenda is a little bit different, you have to issue $7,575,000 in refunding, would be general obligation refunding bonds. It wouldn't be notes, but it would be bonds. So if we go all the way down to page 6, this is the sizing for each issue. And again, we can spend as much time talking about this as you would like, but that reserve fund that I was talking about, if you look in the, under each of the different scenarios in the red, that's the reserve fund, the 745,390, that is the same across the board. The amount required, the row below that, the amount required for the new debt service reserve fund, again, is almost fully funded under option 1, that's the reserve fund. Under option 2, which is a partial refunding, we're able to use roughly 300,000 of that. And then option 3 or 4, where it's a full refunding, we can use that full $745,000 and eliminate that reserve fund, which is no longer a requirement because the revenue debt will be paid off if you do a full refunding of the debt. So the last piece, the last page is a bond chart. We've been talking about this issue. I think I've been sending it to Tim off and on, along with others, sending it to Tim off and on for the last number of months. And we've seen the market pop up a little bit from the January, February time frame, but it has really stabilized. We're seeing, in part due to Greece and a few other things, bond market drop a little bit again. I know there is a request, at least maybe from the Utility Commission, can we move this forward quicker to try to sell these bonds? And so the process, the normal process, if it was something that was authorized tonight by the Finance Committee, normally you would take this to your council, and the council would act upon it and give us authorization to proceed with the refinancing, and then 30 days later, we would be back and actually have the sale results for you to approve. And so under that normal time frame, we would be at your, I think it's at least, what are your regular meetings again? Regular council
Well,
meeting?
if it's normal, we
Normal process.
have the sale of the third week in September.
Third
Tuesday in
Third
September.
Tuesday in September would be the normal process. So one of the requests I know made by the Utility Commission, or they asked whether or not that could be tightened up.
Only because
and-
we've heard a lot of inkling, I'm hearing from a lot of other utilities and ATC, American Transmission Company, that plans to issue new debt, that the feds are meeting in September, and they're likely to push the prime up a bit, is at least what we're hearing. But if that's not feasible, it's not feasible.
Yeah.
We'll do what we have to do.
So I'm happy to go through any more details, but again, the recommendation by the Utility Commission was option number 3.
Right, and as far as, the timing of that, I mean, I guess that's where, I don't know if the mayor is, if you just talk to the mayor
Yeah,
about.
we can talk offline about it.
Yeah, it's just, it would be setting up a special council meeting earlier in September, obviously, to do that, so.
And we can certainly react to that. There's going to be a need, we just went through a debt issue with the city, so it won't be that cumbersome to get through that process. Again, we have a questionnaire that I can get to Tim tomorrow if he wants it. And we have to set up a rating call with Moody's. One of the fun things I know Tim loves to do are rating calls with Moody's. Here, it shouldn't be difficult. I mean, we just went through this process. It's going to be really an update of kind of where the city is halfway through the year. That's, for the most part, what it'll be. And then we'll have to make sure they see the financials of the utility to make sure that they see this as self-supporting. It's not being done to remove it from the books of the utility, but rather to enhance the savings. So I don't think the rating will be difficult in this, going through this process. It's hard to find $100,000 of annual savings anywhere.
It will, I know we just recently had an electric rate case increase late last year, but this will definitely, we wouldn't need one now for probably 3, 4, 5 years anyway, but this would definitely kick the can down the road further with that type of savings. That purely goes to margin and helps improve the system as well.
That's the question I was waiting for. Where do you plow the savings? But you answered it, I think, unless anyone wants to go further.
Those kind of questions. So what you're looking for is a motion to issue the 7.575 million general obligation refunding bonds, or are they
Refunding bonds, yes.
just refunding bonds, right?
General obligation refunding bonds is correct.
Refinance the 9 million electric revenue bonds dated 4/1/2009 using preferably option 3. That's my motion.
Repeat it.
Motion to authorize the issue of $7,575,000 general obligation refunding bonds to refinance the $9 million electrical revenue bonds dated 4/1/2009 with the option 3 recommendation. Second, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will, I'll start working with Tim on pulling things together in case the time frame moves up and we're able to respond to that. So just let us know either way. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Item 5, beverage operator license applications.
Send you a text.
All right.
We've all had a chance to view them. No denials.
Nope, no denials.
I'll make a motion to approve the beverage operator license applications as presented.
Do you have to do two separate or all?
It's fine, you can do one.
Well, for renewals and for new?
They're fine together as one.
For the renewal and new applications.
Second.
I don't think there's any further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6, audit of the bills.
Your favorite.
It's up to you guys.
You all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can't resist.
There you go.
See you, Phil. Take care.
See you,
Thank
Phil.
you.
What was the $20,000 for the Community Foundation for?
$1,000 for.
Check this out.
Page.
12.
That might be the Reggie payment, is that who that was referring to?
$1,000.
Yeah, 20,716, yeah, that was the Reggie that was approved last month.
Agenda.
Went to the page 22 on the fire side.
I'm guessing that is the whole center programming, and that is exactly what it is.
Sorry, Chad, you don't qualify. Couple years.
He can go, he's got basil.
Both of they allow
I'll
it.
drive the bus.
Hey, Ron's refrigeration, is that part of our, that's not part of our hail and all that, is it?
I think they were doing what
Repairs?
pages?
I mean, it's 42 grand. I'm assuming it's new air conditioning. Hang on, I was just on it. Just asking. Page 16. 42,694.
Yep, that's the hail damage.
Okay.
Guns Magazine, is there for the library?
That's for the ambulance chassis.
Page 24, Guns Magazine, is that for the library?
If it's 55701, it is.
5701.
I gotta go check out my latest edition. They've got an interest for me.
And the account number, yeah.
Dr. Oz, the good light. I have to start going to the library again.
Yes, you are.
Page 28, WFHR, $200. Is that for advertising?
That's library, I'm guessing it's some type of advertising for whether their concert programs or other things they put on there.
So anything 55701 is the library's?
Yes, that's their financial account number.
Women's mini golf.
Play picnic.
That was a trip.
I wasn't invited to
Team
that one
building.
either. Scott was there. Everything looks good. I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 7, A, in open session, the committee will vote to go into closed session under section 19.85, para 1, para E of the Wisconsin statute, which reads, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. B, in closed session, the committee will discuss negotiate strategy and possible purchase of properties in the downtown area. C, the committee may take action or make recommendations on item B in closed session and may adjourn in closed session, or may return to open session and continue to discuss item B and may take action or make recommendations on item B.
Motion to go into close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're in closed session.